In order to edit our custom bookmark page and work with our HTML and CSS code, we're going to need a code editor. And a code editor is different than a word processor. When you're using a word processing tool like Microsoft Word or even TextEdit on the Mac, you're dealing with formatted text. This is rich text that you can change the color of the font or make it bold or italic or increase the size. And all of that formatting has special codes inside of the text. So when you use a rich text editor to edit your code, you end up with an unusable code. It has all these symbols and forms built in, format errors. So it breaks everything. A code editor is a plain text editor. Now, if you're a purist, it is possible to use Notepad on Windows to edit your code. It is a plain text editor. It doesn't offer any of the nice features that we like, but you can do it. And I did build my first website in Notepad. You can't make any mistakes though, because you just have to know how everything works. In a modern code editor, we get syntax highlighting, tells us when we match up all the pairs. We get auto completion, which will let us just hit enter instead of typing the next thing. It'll tell us when we make mistakes, oftentimes, or at least give us a little visual indicator like a squiggly mark or something. For the more advanced, like Visual Studio Code, like the IDEs, you can have a terminal that's a command line to your computer, and that's something that developers that we need and use on a daily basis. And then for your really advanced workflows, you can add extensions and plugins to your code editor. For example, if you're using lots of AI programming in your workflow, you might want to have an AI plugin for your preferred AI. But I think now we're even using just AI code editors like Cursor and Windsurf, which you can use. You can use Cursor for a little bit for free, and Windsurf I think has a generous um, student price. But I don't want anybody to go and pay for those now. We're going to use the free things today. So here's a little table for you to review. It used to be all the best web development tools were on the Mac, and all the web developers were Mac users. I mean, almost all of them. You'd see some poor guy who was stuck using Windows, and all he had was Adobe Dreamweaver, and he would complain. But now, if you're using Windows or Mac OS or Linux, all the tools are feature complete across the board. So my favorite tool um, that I use every day is called Visual Studio Code. It's a Microsoft property. It does have AI built in if you want to get into it. It lets you manage your project, open a folder, see the live updates to what you're working on. It's this demo here is showing you how it's chatting with the Microsoft AI built in. And for if you're using a tablet, these these particular tools are not available on your tablet, but depending on your operating system, there should be something available, but it might not be free. It is possible, though, if you have Google Chrome on your tablet, that there's a Visual Studio website that works directly in your tablet. But I don't know if you'd be able to edit local files. So we might have to go and evaluate that later. So Visual Studio Code is pretty solid for most of your programming languages. If you really want to get into IDEs, my current favorite one is called Zed. It's incredibly fast. Um, it's unbelievable, but it's not in full production yet. It's still beta. So the next one for you Windows users is one of the most important tools on Windows. Um, as a system administrator for 18 years using Windows every day, I had Notepad++ on every single machine. And this is because on every machine, at some point, you have to open a file, a system file, an HTML file, an ASP.NET file, something. You always needed a code editor, and I could just have it installed. And don't worry, none of this is advanced for anybody. Um, on Mac OS, if you don't want to use Visual Studio Code, which is pretty straightforward and free, you could use TextMate. TextMate it's a very old editor, but it's just free and it still works. I tested it earlier today. Some people love it. I started my PHP programming using TextMate, and then my current favorite on the Mac for my second. Sometimes you want to have two editors open. BB Edit's my second one, so this is the second one I'm going with. And you can just download it on Mac. This is Mac only. Download it and use it for free, and then after the trial, it will revert to the free features, which are pretty great.